The Word of God says that we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so we have sins in our own individual lives. And depending on where we live, I have come to learn that external factors determine or shape the kind of sins that we carry in our lives. And so as individuals, eventually as families, as communities, and as a race, and probably nations. For example, in the Bible, we continue to read that one sinful person in the children of Israel later led the whole of Israel against God and not trusting God. And so I think this is what is happening in our cultures today. There are things that we do in Rwanda that an American or Western person would look at and think, oh, how can they be that sinful? And there are also so many things that we look at in the US and say, how could they? One underlying factor that I think is that some of the sins are shaped by the economic factors. I'll give an example. When you steal to feed your family, it may not seem like it's a sin. It's wrong, you know it's wrong. But we've seen in cases where people who trust the Lord and have given their lives to the Lord in Rwanda have gone ahead and deceived and cheated, and for good reasons. And yet in the U.S. churches, we also know that there's a lot of love that is being preached and shared among believers, but there are levels of individualism that we have also seen, and probably less community, and there are external factors for that. One of the external factors that I really see here is the weather. When it's cold 6 to 8 months in a year and kids are not free to go out and play in the playground, you end up becoming very close to your families, and you get in the house and you can't go out. And for us, when we see that, when we see kids, neighbors being strangers to each other, we judge them. Whereas back home, it's an open community. Everyone goes out and plays with everyone. And so what I would focus on is not the cultural hierarchy of sin, because there are so many. I could easily point out things like we know the West or US is known to be greedy, which we better call materialism. But we also know that in Rwanda there's a lot of whining. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, I don't have the other. Oh, it's so-and-so who caused me not to have the other. We also have other things in Rwanda that we call, you would call envy. And a better word for that would be entitlement. I'm meant to have this. And whereas in the US, might be translated into individualism. So is it a sin in Rwanda and not a sin in the US? Or is it a sin in the US and not a sin in Rwanda? It really depends. But the bottom line is that we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And as God changes individuals, He's going to change our nations, He's going to change our people, He's going to change our communities and our races.